what it really comes down to when it comes to reaching a goal or going after what you want, you really have to be just relentless with your pursuit of that. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be adversities. There's going to be so many things that will deter you or try to take you away from that. But ultimately, I feel like those adversities and those obstacles are tests.
This is the Total Human Optimization Podcast, the show that explores how to become the best version of yourself. We go in depth with experts in fitness, nutrition, and well-being to examine new ideas and time-tested strategies that can help you on the path to optimization.
On today's episode, we talk with the Glory Women's Super Bantamweight Champion, Tiffany Time Bomb Van Soest. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Total Human Optimization Podcast. Today we have one of the most dangerous people in the world, Tiffany Van Soest. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. So first things first, I want to bring up, I saw this Instagram video and you were just kicking the living shit out of a tree. Now, why would you do that?
I don't know. I just, my friends and I were walking through the rice field one day and there was a banana tree and I was just kind of like walking by and kicking it. And I was kind of like, hey, we should film me kicking this, like that book out video. And he goes, yeah, do it. And I'm like, nah, never mind. I don't really want to be. He's like, no, give me your keys to your bike. I'll get it. I'll get your phone and I'll film it. And I was like, all right. And so, sure enough, I just, started kicking the tree and he filmed it. And then I wasn't even going to post it originally. And then I was like, well, I got a fight coming up. I'll generate a little bit of hype, And I posted it and it went viral. It was insane how fast it spread and like how many times it was shared. And
yeah, it's not something you see every day. I mean, are you at a point now where that just doesn't hurt at all?
Oh, like kicking the tree?
Yeah, I mean,
no, it didn't really hurt that much.
Well, I mean, as a fighter, you've had to toughen your shins up in the past with other methods, right? I mean, that is an old school Thai fighter technique, though, isn't it? To actually kick a tree. We saw it in the movie Kickboxer, so it must be true.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheesy. It's not really like, yeah, okay, you can kick a tree, but it's not really like, it's more kind of like a party trick.
Did you toughen your shins, though, just kicking mitts and bags over the years, or was there something else you used when you were younger?
Yeah, no, totally. Just repetition, kicking heavy bags, a lot of kicking Thai pads, checking kicks, just use over time has hardened it, taking some hard checks or some hard kicks and then letting those soft spots calcify and harden more to make them stronger. So just over time, wear and tear.
Okay, so I read before you got into Muay Thai, you used to play soccer. You played a couple of seasons in college.
Yeah, I played
okay,
soccer my whole life.
Did you have that same kick power then? Were you blowing through people's knees and shins?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I like to think I had a nice shot on my ball when I tried to shoot, or I could cross it really well, but I don't think I was too violent when I played.
So did you have an aspiration to play soccer professionally?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a little kid, from the point all the way up through college, I'd always wanted to be a professional soccer player. And, when I got to the college level, I realized, how limited the opportunity was and to actually be a professional soccer player, especially as a woman as well. So then I just kind of explored other options, and I'd always been interested in martial arts. I grew up doing karate my whole life as well, and I was always doing Muay Thai on the side as well as playing soccer, fighting on the amateur circuit. And I just got to a point where I kind of fell out of love with soccer. And at that level, at the college level, and I was starting to fall in love more with Muay Thai and the idea of that, hey, I could really go somewhere with this. And so I just made the decision to stop playing soccer and to pursue fighting full time, and turned out to be a good decision.
Yeah, I mean, pursuing a career as a kickboxer really isn't any more realistic for most people than pursuing a career as a soccer player. So, what advice do you have for other fighters, men or women, on how to get sponsored and get noticed, for a fight career?
Closed mouths don't get fed. You have to put yourself out there and you have to do something different. Like just you got to do what people have never done before to really get noticed. Because if you do something the same as something or as somebody else, it's just like a copy or a repeat or a different version. There's nothing original or unique about it. You just got to really dig deep and find your creative edge and put yourself out there.
So for you, kicking the tree was one method. I mean, obviously this is many years later, but that's one method of getting exposure. You think people should do things like that? Just use social media and leverage it like that?
Absolutely. Social media is an insane thing. It's crazy. Social media is weird, but it is huge and it's everything now. It's marketing, it's networking, it's branding, it's so many things and it's being utilized in so many different ways. It's you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's gotten so much bigger than MySpace used to be back in the
Oh
day.
my gosh.
Were you on MySpace?
Of course I was on MySpace. Who was in your top 8?
That started so many arguments amongst friends. Like, if you're not in the top 8, like, what did I do wrong?
Ooh, right? Or you'd be mad at your friend and be like, oh, I'm so taking you off my
downgrade him to
top
number
8.
2. That was the worst. That's how you really get under somebody's skin. So now you have 2 belts. We have 2 belts in 2 different companies, for Lion and for Glory. So, I mean, what's that like? You must be riding some kind of super high train.
Yeah, I'm just the Glory champ now. I parted ways with Lion Fight
Okay.
a while ago, but while I was there, I held the belt in 2 different weight classes, and both times, multiple times. And after I parted ways and signed with Glory, obviously I went through that tournament and I won the title back in December, and so now I'm currently just the Glory champion.
Yeah, you beat 2 people in one night to finalize that tournament. Yeah, well, what was your recovery like between those 2 fights? Because most people haven't seen that since the early days of the UFC. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever experienced the 2 fights in one night thing. But it was always something I kind of wanted to do just to see what it was like. As far as my training leading up to the fight, I simulated that as much as possible in my sparring and in my strength and conditioning so that my body was used to going, one fight length, having a rest period, and then going another entire fight and having the gas tank for it. So I felt like I was very prepared as far as that went. But then when it actually came to doing it, I found it to be pretty fun and pretty easy. Like, I really felt comfortable by the time I got to the second fight. The first fight I'd settled in, I'd found my range, my distance, my timing, and everything, and really began to warm up. And then that fight was over. I got to go back to the back, recompose a little bit, stretch out, loosen up again, and then get ready to go again for the next fight. And I felt a little bit more in my zone and a little bit more dialed in, and didn't take too much damage or anything in the first fight. Fortunately, fought a good, smart fight, and was able to go into that second fight with a full gas tank and with everything that I had.
But what did you do specifically between those matches? Did you just rehydrate like crazy? Did you get a quick massage, try to relax, or what?
Yeah, I relax a little bit, stretch out even more, get do some mobility drills, just get really loose, limber, and then just play spar. Just find my range, my distance, and just be in the moment and just really feel what's going on around me, and then just make sure that I'm focused and that I stay in that zone that I need to be in to execute what I need to do to get the win.
So I hear this a lot from different fighters, and I would think in my mind before going to fight, I would be like, man, I want to get really jacked up and really get my mind really like listen to some heavy metal or something, But from what I understand, like that's the opposite of what you want to do. Is that correct?
Everybody's unique. Everybody has their process. Mine personally, I like to stay as relaxed as possible, but there's an intensity. There's definitely a moment where I feel like where it's time to flip the switch, where I go from being Tiffany to where I go to being Time Bomb. I feel like I have like
Wow.
like
She
an alter
uses
ego.
birds. Yeah. She lit
Like
the fuse.
I feel like there's an alter ego. Like there's the moment where okay, the gloves are on, the music's playing, and okay, here I go. I shed one person and I step into this new character, almost like this kind of superhero.
So does Time Bomb come
Yeah.
out when she's not supposed to come out? Does she ever come out in the normal society where she's not supposed to be?
No, not very often. Like, I mean, very, very, very rarely, but only if absolutely necessary.
Have you ever had to use your skills on the street or against a man?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes boys get out of line and they need to be put in check. So,
Oh yeah.
Is there an example of that?
I don't know. No, probably not.
Not publicly available.
No.
Your lawyers have advised you not to answer that.
That's cool. So one of the basis of this show is we try to get a grasp of the health and fitness aspects of things. So I'm kind of interested to know, outside of preparing for a fight, what a standard like day of living is for you when in your health and fitness. Are you still training multiple times a day? I guess you could start with that. That's a good start.
Yeah, definitely. Living in Bali, the only things that there are to do are to train and to surf and to hang out or to do something active. So there's always an option to be healthy. So a standard day of living for me is I wake up in the morning, typically check the surf. If it's good, go surf, have a good breakfast, and then go to the gym for my first training session of the day. Depending on the day of the week, my training differs, but some days I have strength and conditioning. Some days it's all technique. Some days it's, I alternate between doing 2 days, 3 days, singles, just really trying to listen to my body as much as possible, but also still pushing and learning and improving constantly. But yeah, so I feel like a standard day, I mean, I'm still getting a lot done.
Yeah. Do you get to a point? I mean, you're so conditioned now. Do you get to a point where you're just like, man, I don't feel it today? Like where you have to take a break, where you're just like, man, my body needs a rest, or is it you just feel good all the time?
No, absolutely. With the way that we push each other at the gym, and the way that I push myself in my strength and conditioning and outside of the gym, like my body takes a beating, and I definitely need those days to recover.
Do you think that women need to train any differently from men, or is that a myth?
I think it's just completely up to the individual. It doesn't matter man or woman. Everybody's different. I don't think there's just like a cookie cutter one size fits all recipe. So I think it really just depends on listening to your body and finding what works best for you.
So what's the diet like in Bali? That's got to be pretty good. I imagine a lot of good fish and
Yeah,
stuff like
there's
that.
a lot of really great food.
Are you able to eat really organically? And
Definitely.
good there.
Yeah, the local produce isn't too bad. There's always the option to eat organic. Like you said, a lot of fresh seafood with it being an island, which is awesome because I really enjoy that. There's also the option to be unhealthy too.
Yeah.
A lot of fried food, the local food like rice, noodles, a lot of oil and like fried stuff. So if you want to be bad, you can be bad. But overall, generally, it's really easy to eat clean and to maintain like overall like healthy lifestyle.
So you probably have a pretty high. I don't know if you track anything your food or not, but imagine you have a pretty high caloric intake you can take on a day based on all your training.
Yeah, I would imagine so,
Yeah.
but I
do you
don't
monitor
really,
any of that stuff, or you just
I don't
kinda
count
just go-
calories. I just kind of go by how my body feels, and when it's time to cut weight for the fight, then it's a bit more specific. My nutritionist, Ian Larios, he's also in Bali, and he's the guy that goes to. He just does my portion control. He cooks my meals for me, brings them to the gym if need be and stuff. So when it's time to kind of dial it in a bit more, going into camp or pre-fight or whatever, I've got that handled.
All right, going back to the surfing, have you had any shark encounters, and did you have to lay a shark out at any point?
Yeah, so one time I was out in the water and there was this shark, and it was swimming towards me, and I was just like, "Hey, chill out, man." No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're talking to the shark, so that's number one.
No, I've never had any shark encounters, thankfully.
Yeah.
Maybe just like in El Porto in LA. There's used to be a great white shark that would, it was like a baby one that would be seen in the lineup quite often.
Okay.
People with GoPros on their stand-up paddleboards would follow it around and stuff, and post these videos on Facebook and YouTube. And so one day, I surfed there quite often when I lived there, and yeah, I saw it one time, like. I just saw the shadow, and everyone kind of like, you could tell it was there. Everyone kind of like looked around and was like, "Did you see that? Yeah, did you see that? Was that? Yeah, I thought that was it. That was it." And it's crazy because like when it swam through, like the energy it just kind of like just changed a little bit. Like something was like, oh, something powerful just just arrived. So
yeah, no, thank you.
yeah, I was done after that. I paddled in.
Yeah, for sure. So Glory has become just a huge monster. It's crazy. You just got in at the perfect time because before, kickboxing wasn't on a lot of television. You couldn't see it anywhere, but now it's readily available. So I mean, how do you feel about that? Just knowing that there's millions of people watching you whenever you fight.
I think it's great. I didn't really think about it until December with the title fight and everything. When afterwards, I went to Amsterdam and spent some time there, and just walking through the street, randomly people stopped and they recognized me, and they're like, "The champ, Glory champ, Tiffany Time Bomb." Like I was in this completely new place, on the other side of the world, and people knew who I was, and it was just this really, really surreal, crazy feeling, and that's when I realized like how big it was. Yeah.
You said something really interesting right after you won the title. You said that you'd spent a lot of time visualizing it beforehand, so it was just kind of going through the motions, and the realization of that dream was almost like a foregone conclusion. Can you talk about the visualization techniques you used up to the title fight?
Absolutely, yeah. Typically, when I'm in training camp, I do a lot of running in the morning. And that's when I like to use that time for my visualization the most. I visualize everything. I visualize everything from my face off at the weigh-in. I visualize everything from my warm-up in the locker room to the nerves that I'm going to anticipate feeling. And I visualize my walk to the ring, like what I might see in my peripheral vision, what the sounds are going to sound like, what the canvas is going to feel like under my feet. I try to visualize as many specifics as possible, as many different feelings as possible, and also as many ways that I want it to go as possible. Because you have to put out what you want. And so with constant repetition of that, I feel like I get used to those nerves, that energy, feeling that, hearing those sounds. So that way, when the moment really does happen, when I do step out onto the runway to walk to the ring, when I do hear the crowd, when I do feel those little nerves, I'm not overwhelmed by feeling these feelings. It's not like I'm feeling them for the first time. I've felt them so many times every time I visualized it that I've been there. So it's not taking any energy or any focus away from the fight or what I need to focus on.
Yeah, the proof is in the results. Have you always done that since you were a kid, or did you talk to a sports psychologist and they kind of put you onto it?
I've always had a big imagination as a kid. I've always been really competitive as a kid. So I always imagined myself, the clock ticking down, 5 seconds left, I get the ball, I shoot and I score to make the winning goal for the championship game, But that was just me being a kid. So who knows? Maybe that had something to do with it. But the really specific visualization and the repetition of it, along with like breathing exercises, that's something I really started to implement maybe a couple of years ago with through one of my strength and conditioning coaches, Nia Pham, with Optimum Training and Performance in San Diego. He's the one that really encouraged me to do it and kind of taught me a process or two about it or how to go about it. And I started doing a little bit more research on my own and different methods and trying it. And I enjoy it, and I think it's useful. I think there's something to it.
On that same note, I think a lot of people feel pressure in their daily lives. If you're not a fighter, obviously in the business world, you probably feel a pressure to perform in work. And you having your career in front of millions of people, and your team depending on you, maybe your family or your friends and people that hope to see you do well. That's a lot of pressure. So, and you're young at a young age, and how do you deal with that kind of pressure?
I try not to see it as pressure. What it ultimately comes down to at the end of the day is I chose this life. I chose it for no specific reason other than it's what I felt like was the right thing to do. It's what I felt like I was meant to do. I could think of a million reasons why I shouldn't do it, but it doesn't matter, I'm doing it for the one reason why, I know I should. It's because I feel like it's what I should do. So yeah.
How do you deal with pain during a fight or after the fight? Just that banged up feeling. I mean, that's something that every fighter has to deal with.
Yeah, fortunately, adrenaline during the fight kind of numbs it or dulls it. There are times when you do feel it, no doubt about that. But for me personally, I typically don't feel the pain until after the fight's over. The adrenaline starts to wear off.
And do you have any rituals for the next day? Any recovery strategies? Or you just kind of like let it run its course?
Cryotherapy, ice baths, taping, whatever needs to be done depending on the injury. But definitely try to address it right away.
What's your supplementation like? And I know you're here at On It, so you're going to mention a couple of hundred products. But even outside of that, do you take a lot of supplements? And how do you plan your use of those certain supplements?
Really, I just use the On It supplements. I try to take, just for general health, I take the Total Primate day packs and night packs, and because then I just feel like I don't have to really put too much thought into it. I'm getting everything I need. I like smoothies and shakes because there's a lot of fresh fruit and stuff in Bali. So the proteins are great. The hemp proteins. I don't know. I just love it. I really just love it all.
Yeah, there's a lot of good
great
stuff. It's almost just like kind of like food. Like I don't know if you've had the shakes at the cafe.
Yeah, I
it's
had
almost
one
just like a
earlier.
milkshake. It tastes so good. It doesn't like feel like it's healthy at all.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's better than like some like real milkshakes that I've ever had.
Yeah, and you don't feel bad about it after.
Yeah. Well, until you see like there's butter and all that stuff. But butter's in the clear now, right? Butter's good to go.
Butter's good again, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we always like to leave our audience with a inspiring tip of total human optimization. So if you can give our listeners a tip for total human optimization, I'm sure they would love it.
A tip for total human optimization.
Just something that'll help motivate them in their life. Maybe something that you've learned along the way that could be applied to anyone.
I've learned along the way that just what it really comes down to when it comes to reaching a goal or going after what you want, you really have to be just relentless with your pursuit of that. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be adversities. There's going to be so many things that will deter you or try to take you away from that. But ultimately, I feel like those adversities and those obstacles are tests and reminders for you to really think about if that is what you want and what you're willing to go through to get what you want. And if your heart still aches for that, still yearns for that goal, for that dream, for whatever it may be, that you can't ignore that. If you ignore that, then I feel like you die inside a little bit every day that you ignore that. Because you're not living for what you want or for what you feel like that purpose is or what that drive or that desire is. So, it's really follow your heart, but be relentless in the pursuit of what it is that you're going after.
Thanks for listening. If you want to listen to past episodes and make sure you get the latest as they are released, take a moment to subscribe on iTunes. Also make sure to visit onnit.com, that's ONNIT.com, for the latest in supplementation, foods, and fitness. I'm Orlando Rios.
And I'm Sean Heisen.
And you've been listening to Total Human Optimization.